what exactly does RickMortyDoxx aim to achieve as a cryptocurrency token?
So I would say it's primarily a utility token, and the utility that we provide is vetting of teams. So one of our mottos is not just tokens, teams. And we know that within the crypto space, roughly 99% of major fraud is a result of rug pulls or other exit scams. So ICOs that go wrong, things like that. And so what usually happens is not a technical failure, which there are some companies that do a very good job of auditing for the technical features. But usually what happens is a team failure. And we know that there are networks that are intentionally building turnkey rugs over and over again to extract money from the space. And so too long didn't read version, is your team more or less vetted than a McDonald's employee? If they're less vetted than a McDonald's employee, that's a problem. And even at McDonald's in the United States, you're going to show some ID, you're going to give some basic information about who you are before they're going to let you handle the fry cook position. But in crypto, you could be handling hundreds of millions of dollars or even $1 billion worth of assets, and nobody knows who you are. And so we're looking to provide a service that allows teams that are really making a good faith effort at utility, the opportunity to communicate that to the public via a trusted third party, namely us.
The reason that I don't invest in most of cryptocurrencies that everyone tells me to invest in is because I've invested when in like the first Bitcoin boom, when I was transferring Bitcoin to different currencies, and like everyone said, oh, this one's going to the moon and that one's going to the moon. I'm just throwing my money in every other random project that was made, and nearly all of them went to absolutely nothing. Like they're worthless as of today, and I've lost a lot of money because of it. And I know that everybody on this team has had the same experience, probably way worse than I have as well. So it's illegal to rug pull, right?
So let's talk about it. People often say crypto is a unregulated or a deregulated space. And there are some aspects of that. These are not exactly securities. They're not exactly commodities that, most governments haven't figured out how to regulate this because they don't know exactly what it is. It's a new thing. And so in that regard, they're right. But just because it's an unregulated space doesn't mean like the basic rules of society don't apply. If I lie, I'm just a jerk. Most countries don't have a law against lying. But if I lie to you to get money, I knowingly lie to you to get money, that's some form of fraud. Okay. Now there's different types, and our attorney on the team will probably tell you with more specificity. But if I lie to you across state lines, it's usually what's called wire fraud. So if I launch a website and says we're going to build this utility, NFT gaming, whatever, and I genuinely have no intention of doing it, but I use that advertising to get your money or your Ethereum or USDT or anything of value, I use that lie to get something of value. That's a form of fraud, a form of theft, and it's illegal. It's certainly illegal everywhere in the United States. Most other jurisdictions, it's illegal as well. Now, it's one thing. There's two types of risk in crypto. There's risk of failure, which is just inherent in life. Some people mean well. They want to build, let's say, an NFT gaming platform, or they want to build an exchange, or whatever the utility is, and they try to do it, and it crashes and burns, or it just doesn't get traction, or they don't make money. That kind of failure is fine. It's just part of life. You try things, they don't work. But if I go to do that, and I advertise that I'm in good faith working on these things, and I have no intention of doing it, all I want is to get your money and run. That's illegal. And there are shops. There's at least one big shop that does one a day. They turn out one rug pull a day. They copy paste the website. They just put in a new name, and I'm not going to name now, but there are a couple big ones that are by this shop. But there's a lot of little ones where they spend $10,000 between buying off influencers and making a copy paste website with just a new set of graphics, launching the contract, and then they get 40,000 in liquidity. And even things like Token Sniffer don't necessarily catch this because I can lock the liquidity for 6 months, but I just come back 6 months later and grab your money when everybody's forgotten about it. And so there are shops that are turning out one a day. They're turning out one pump and dump rug pull per day consistently. And they just copy paste, do the next one. One of the most recent examples was Bambi Inu, right? It was obvious it was going to fail. I knew it was going to fail before it launched because it's a complete copy paste of the last one that failed. They just put Bambi in instead and then put, some cute Bambi graphics. Well, probably a couple hundred people got screwed out of that. There's consistent, complicit alliance between rug pull shops and influencers, which brings us to the second part of RMDoxx, which is one of our other sayings is not just influence, but accountability. So there are some influencers out there who have, 100,000 or 1 million followers, and they get really good reach. So if you were to go on Lunar Crush, you can see they have a lot of impact. but they're specifically using that for bad. They know or should know that the same person sending them money this week that sent them last week is the shop that rug pulled everybody. And there are some of them, and I've called some of them out by name on Twitter, that consistently show, and I've even messaged with them. They're like, no, these are good guys. It's like the good guys who just rugged 6 in a row. You know these people, and they're paying you. Well, now the influencer is involved in it. If you're taking things of value to further fraud, you're part of it. And so one of the big troubles in crypto, not only do we not know who to trust in terms of teams, because they're often anonymous, we also don't know who to trust in terms of influencers, because just because they have a blue check through Twitter or they have 100,000 subscribers doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person. And we want to find a way to differentiate between the influencers who are either putting their own money on the line or, do some degree of due diligence to make sure that who they're representing or who they're talking about, is at least making a good faith attempt at value. Now, again, doesn't mean they're going to succeed, but they're not trying to screw you. They're making a good faith attempt. And so far in crypto Twitter especially, but in crypto broadly, this cycle has just been rug pull central.
I can definitely tell that. There's actually a Twitch streamer that was promoting, like, I think he spent like an hour or two, maybe even more. He was promoting a certain cryptocurrency, and he was, it was obvious this currency was just like a shit coin. It wasn't really going anywhere. And he spent like an hour or two on Twitch streaming how to buy the coin, why it's such a great coin, and it's great. And then after that stream was over, they obviously paid him a lot of money. And in the very next stream, he said, I hope none of you guys actually bought that coin. It was bullshit. I just got paid a huge bag for it. Which, like, he was like openly admitting to just like selling out just for money and like scamming his entire audience. When during that stream, he wasn't saying this coin sucks. He was saying this is exactly how you buy it and it's going to go to the moon. We're all going to make so much money. So there's a lot of fraudulent activity, especially when you can really buy somebody out and make someone that has 1,000 subscribers to 1 million subscribers look legit for a couple of days or so, just to make the money and then pull everyone that they brought in.
This next week, I'm going to be doing a deep dive in the last 1,000 tokens to launch on ERC. And my suspicion is, at least anecdotally so far, most rugs don't last 10 days. 2 weeks is unusual for these rugs. Many of them don't last 10 hours. And the influencers who sell them, who push them, know or should know this, because it's the same guy sending them a check as last week. And so I'm not saying they're in on it. I've talked to a number of influencers who have some modicum of integrity, and they're like, I know this, but I can't say this out loud. Otherwise, all their followers weaponized to attack me. And we've seen that ourselves as well, where there's a real reticence to out pathological networks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So what do you guys do different that can verify that any single person that's interested in your coin will be safe?
So for us personally, what we do is you can see who we are. I'm a licensed professional in Michigan. David's a licensed professional in Florida. Kyle literally has his name on his business. You can find Miguel. I mean, like you can go through, you can find out who we are. We are domain either in business, in tech, in research, or other related things, marketing, crypto, generally. All of us have crypto experience. You can find out who we are. You can find out what our credentials are. So we're known. We're not some random guy, in a non-extradition country. We're known. And we have a track record in each ones of years of work. We didn't just show up last year. The other thing is we have a multi-sig wallet. So our core functions are governed by multi-sig. And as Kyle, like one of the most recent additions to the multi-sig, can tell you, it's a real pain in the ass to get anything done. Now, on the day-to-day operation, that's a pain in the ass because it's really difficult to get everybody together and, in a time window and all sign off, or at least a majority sign off. But on the upside for the holders, it's real pain in the ass to get anything done. If we even wanted to rug you, which we don't, it would take so much advanced planning that it would not happen overnight. We couldn't do it overnight if we wanted to. And let's say there's a nefarious actor. Let's say somebody comes to our door to try to get our key. Well, we're located in multiple continents and multiple countries. You'd have to get to a majority of us at the same time before you got to any of the other ones, because we could cancel or veto it.
Which is, wow. So there's some sort of like democracy to that, right?
Yeah, it's a bit like a dead man switch. If you look at during the Cold War, both Russia and the United States had the same basic protocol, which was it was a two-man key or two key launch. You couldn't launch from a nuclear submarine unless you had both keys turned. Well, they had two guys. We have several. And so it's actually harder to get to us. And the submarine, they're both in the same place. You'd have to multiple places at the same time to get those keys to turn to fire off a transaction. And while that slows things down in day-to-day operations, it provides a very high level of safety for holders. And we believe that this is sort of a model of what teams can do, where certainly things like liquidity tokens, or if there's a large treasury or a large operations wallet or a large marketing wallet, people say, oh, they ran off with the marketing wallet. Okay, the first person to run off with the marketing wallet, shame on them. The 400 times later, the quote unquote bad dev or the friend of the dev ran off with the marketing wallet. At that point, somebody should have learned something. A simple multi-sig would have prevented that. If you needed $1,000 for marketing, okay, you send out 1,000. You don't send out the whole wallet. And so we examples of how tokens can be managed in a way that mitigates some of these risks. Now, what we do for other tokens is we do a detailed, and we can estimate some of these parameters outside. But if we do a detailed interview, we know who they are, we know what their intentions are, we know what their experience is, and we vet that. And then we provide a summary score that kind of summarizes what we think the level of risk in the project is. Now, risk is not a perfect estimate. It's not like somebody who scores 100 won't rug you. They still can. It's not like somebody who scores 10 is guaranteed rug pulled. Maybe they just had a lot of bad things in life and they're turning it around. But somebody who scores very low is going to be much more likely to rug you than somebody who scores very high.
If I'm not mistaken, effectively you guys are making a somewhat of an alliance or a protocol in a sense that will, with your coin, will prevent other coins from being rug pulled or being scammed, or preventing anybody else from like lying on social media. It'll give somewhat of a ranking system, how much you can trust people. So not only is it showing the public like you can't trust this creator or you can trust this creator, or this token is made by these people that have a really, really bad track record, you shouldn't trust them, or this token right here is allied through us and you can trust them because you trust us. So we're working in a sense together because these people are docs, and if anything does go wrong, they're literally held accountable. They can't just take your money and run because you can sue them or you can go after them legally, correct?
Right. That's one part. Now, doxing can help after the fact, there's a number of products on the market already that allow like for chain analysis and tracking after the fact. And those are important, but most of those are like going to support law enforcement or lawsuits or things after the fact. What we're trying to encourage people to adopt a standard on the front end that communicates higher trust and a higher expectation of accountability.
I see. And then that's through the multi-sig?
Well, if they do some of the same things we do, right? I mean, so if teams use a multi instead of a single signature, if teams are willing to be doxed and vetted, there's a range of things that teams can do that don't guarantee their code will work and don't guarantee that the project will succeed, but they make it very, very unlikely that it's going to be a direct fraud, or that if it is a direct fraud, it'll be successful.
Most likely when people are working with you guys and they're allied under you and they're following the same practices as you, if I'm not mistaken, the multi-sig is that one person can just take off everything and just run with it. Like not one person has control over the entire project, but everybody working, for an example, the vast majority would have to make the same transaction for it to go through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So what it is, I mean, I won't get too technical, but basically it's a smart contract, and the smart contract holds the tokens, whether they're liquidity tokens, the treasury, or the, like maybe the operations wallet or something. And so the smart contract holds it, and the smart contract will only fire an execution if a certain number of signatures are met. It could be 5 of 7, it could be, 4 of 6, whatever it is. You could have a much larger or much smaller multi-sig wallet. And so, for example, I'm a signatory, Kyle's a signatory. We live probably at least 1,000 miles apart. One of our other team members is in Europe. One is in Texas. I mean, like, we all live thousands of miles apart. And so you'd have to have a majority of us that were in cahoots all at the same time firing an execution before anybody else could interrupt it. And the thing is, we didn't know each other before this project. We don't have pre-existing links in the way where, like, Kyle's my best friend or something. I didn't know Kyle until this project. And same the other way around. And so because of that, we have everybody else on the team has a vested interest in not allowing fraud. Now, we're out front in public knowledge. We're actually actively fighting it. We have integrity and we don't want to do that. But even if we did, like the other teammates have a vested interest in stopping us. And so it's very easy to get a majority to thwart some sort of negative action.
You guys couldn't go rogue even if you wanted to, basically. It would be nearly impossible. If anybody else wanted to hold you guys all hostage, for an example, it would be almost impossible because you guys are across the entire globe, including the USA. So not only could anything not go wrong, which would be nearly impossible, but you guys aim to prevent that from the most of other cryptocurrencies that are allied with you as well. So you plan on fixing the biggest issue of cryptocurrency, because I know like a lot of coins that seem like they have a really, really good use case, and I would love to invest in these coins. But in the same sense, I do also know that the owner can really just pull out the money and just run with it at any given time, which means that cryptocurrency from the public eye, as far as I can tell, is deemed to be like a really shady, uh, sus kind of thing, where like you're not really sure, like, yeah, this project seems really good and it has a really, really good use case and its utility is awesome, but at the same time it might not even go through and it might just get pulled and it might not ever happen. So I feel like this is, with the, if you guys are allied with some of these names that do aim to achieve a bunch of other issues with crypto as well, or aim to make things a lot faster and safer, that if they were to actually go through with it and they were to be held accountable, then cryptocurrency as a space in general would be a lot more effective at getting things done and moving forward, especially with like Web3.
Yes. And one of our team members, David, he often says, he's one of the things that's also interesting is we don't even have a unanimity of political views on our team. We have a very wide diversity. Some of us very thoroughly disagree with others, which is actually a good thing for token holders, because like we're not going to have these shared biases. We disagree on a lot of things. But one of the things David likes to say, which I do agree with him on, is there's a lot of innovation potential in this space. And I actually think it's immense potential. But what rug pulls do is they don't just scam people, which sucks. They also rob the space of innovation, because if, let's say, 100 Ethereum goes to a rug puller, what you're incentivizing is rug pulling. If 100 Ethereum goes to a team that built a new application for NFTs, or a faster way to execute transactions safely, or a new kind of wallet that is interoperable across chains, that actually builds innovation. And so what's happening is the rug pullers aren't just screwing over the people who get rug pulled. They're a net tax, a hidden tax on all of our market valuations. Because instead of your good project being at 100 million, maybe it's only at 50 million, but you don't see it because you're like, I never buy rugs. Some of the more sophisticated investors are like, I never buy rugs. Well, but all the people who do, they just threw that money down the toilet chasing what your guys are really doing. But these other guys were just pretending to do. Because anybody can copy paste a white paper, anybody can copy paste a web page. I mean, like, how many projects are doing NFT gaming? There's probably like 2,000 that are claiming to do it. How many are really working on it? If it's 20, I'd be surprised.
There is this stigma still around crypto in general, right? Like I was talking to a couple people I work with just the other day, and we had a quick conversation, and they basically said what you said word for word. Like, oh, it's scary, it's a little shady, and I tried to explain to them what we're doing. They thought that was a fantastic idea. But as a new investor, they hear these stories, just like you've heard these stories. And they're like, yeah, this person got rugged. This person lost all their money. And so what we're trying to do is just, we're not trying to necessarily push anyone in any direction. We're just trying to give them an added line of security so they can check something out themselves. That's the end goal for us, is education, right? So if we can educate new investors, and especially young investors, because whether anyone likes it or not, like, crypto's not going anywhere. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. So we have to, I don't even know if I should say this, but like, I have a wallet for my 9-year-old, you know what I mean? And I'm teaching him everything he needs to know, and he's infatuated with it, so that maybe when he becomes an adult and I give him that key, which, we'll see what it's worth then, to be honest with you, there's just too many people that really don't understand crypto. And then unfortunately, the first time they get in, they might get rugged, and then we may never see them again. And that's what we're trying to alleviate, essentially.